exploring the intersection of AI and HR. This is the AI HR Daily Podcast.
So hi everyone and welcome back to our AI HR Daily Podcast. This is our second episode and we are really hyped about the topic today. So we've read intensively a case study from McKinsey, which is talking about the deployment gap, which basically means a lot of companies now, or more specifically 80% of companies, have advanced AI systems in their HR departments, but only 20% are actually really realizing value of these systems or with these systems and using them intensely. And obviously, therefore, the question comes up: why is this gap so steep and so wide in a way? And what can be done in order to close the gap? And maybe Chris, this is the perfect segue and question to start with. So
Exactly.
Why is it, and what can be done to make this less of a problem?
Yeah. So before we kind of go back a step and start from the beginning, this foundational issue of a lot of companies and enterprises worldwide having mandates right now of implementing AI agents in all of the value chain, from HR to marketing to sales to even in certain technology departments and R&D, we see the implementation of AI. But as you already said correctly, the problem is they all want to implement it and they all buy tools right and left that cost millions of dollars. But how high is the efficiency actually, right? And I think this is a good starting point of where we're going to start today. So if we take it a step back, a couple of years ago, this whole AI topic started, and everyone slowly but surely started with training employees on how to use ChatGPT and how to use Claude. But the problem here was, once again, training in companies is a big flaw, right? There's not a structured process for that. Normally, companies have once a year a performance review for employees to improve their skills and their performance within their role. But I think there is a underlying problem that the general training capabilities and also willingness to spend on training is pretty much flawed. Tim, maybe in your history now of building AI and also being part of AI companies, how was your training capability there?
Yeah, I mean, really interesting point, right? So it was always kind of a bit differentiated between the tech team building the actual solution and the business team using then a solution. And the business teams were really not, in the first place, involved in building the solution enough. So also not trained in a way like how is the solution built up in the way it's built up. And then also not trained on the tool itself. So you have like some obviously curriculums in place to train people on different things. But this is not really aligning with first of all, the needs of the individual person and the requirements which are changing constantly now with AI developing so quickly. So therefore, I think the trainings which I experienced were always way too static, not individualized enough for me as a person, and then also in a way already outdated. And I think here in itself, AI would be a great leverage to utilize in terms of like being able to talk to every employee and ask them, hey, what are your day-to-day use cases? How do you use this AI tool currently? What are your problems with the tool? And then on the fly, kind of generate a learning path and education material, and work through this education material also jointly with the AI on a need basis. So I think this is really the shift which needs to happen in order to adapt these systems better and get more value out of these AI systems.
And in your case, like independent of AI training, how was the training structured generally? Did you have any other trainings in place at all, even within AI companies?
Yes, I mean, we had like kind of obviously as I worked for consultancy, trainings around like how to structure presentations, how to give presentations, how to interact with different kind of stakeholders. We obviously were also motivated to do some like more technical certifications around like specific data platforms, for example, like Snowflake, Palantir, AWS, you name it. But again, here, pretty static curriculums to go through and to basically click yourself through, which didn't really mean I achieved the skill in the end. It only meant that I clicked 20 times on a button
Exactly.
and go through the next step, and didn't really imply, didn't really make clear that I understood and learned a new skill. And this is then really the wrong signal, which is then also sent to leadership in terms of saying, hey, this person was upskilled, but actually it just went through a clicking exercise for compliance reasons or governance reasons to get the next raise or whatever, right?
This is the starting point for the first diagram that I brought with us today, where we essentially, McKinsey talked to 5,000 employees and talked about specifically this topic on training. So training in general has a big impact on employee skills and the development of an employee. Now, as we can see in this diagram, it shows specifically that in countries like Netherlands, Germany, where you were also employed, France and Belgium, over 25% have not gotten any training at all in the last 12 months, right? And this is also a big problem, not only regarding to AI, but also regarding to general training mechanisms in place.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think this is a good starting point. And if we go to the next topic, which goes a bit more into the coverage of AI training within these different countries, we can specifically see. So this graph gives us a bit of an overview of the L&D, so learning and development, specific to Gen AI use cases. And we can see that countries like China, 50% of the employees have already received some kind of training on Gen AI, if it's even like a ChatGPT training or a Claude training. Whereas if we go to Europe, Germany, let's take that as a base example, as we know the market very well, we drop down to 28% that have received any training, which can also be a click-through dummy, that, as you said. Whereas 43% have not received any training on Gen AI yet. And we're already so deep into it, right?
Yeah. And I think this is concerning or not ideal at all from a few different layers, right? Obviously, people get not skilled on the new software in place, so they can't really use it in the most efficient way. They also don't get educated on what kind of capabilities the software has and what kind of capabilities still stay with the human. So they're still getting more and more scared, even maybe from the technology. And obviously, things are evolving so fast, especially looking now at Gen AI and the developments of the applications around it, that you would normally need to refresh your knowledge on a monthly, even though weekly basis. And now this is really happening not at all for a lot of people, and for some people maybe once a year, again in this really static manner and not in a highly personalized interactive format where you can basically have a chat with ChatGPT more or less in the end, talking about different points. Yeah.
That topic, plus we also need to evaluate the intrinsic motivation of a employee, right? Is the person even interested in learning more about AI? Is the person in their last 5 to 10 years of working and they don't care about personal development anymore and skill development? So I think there's a lot of factors that this study also doesn't cover, at least in this graph.
Yeah.
Because we also know how it is, right? You get a training offer in a big corporate. How often do employees actually do it? Plus actually not, as you said, just click on next to just get the certificate, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then I think here that the personalized learning path could be insanely valuable, because if someone would have come to me and said, hey, I know you are now working in this project with AWS. Here I have a really hyper-personalized plan. What's important to know around
Exactly.
AWS and the newest developments. And here, let's have a quick chat, because then you can deliver more value to your clients. You also need to maybe not bother yourself with researching the information and these kind of things. This would have been insanely valuable for me as a person, right?
Yeah. And as a logical next step, now a lot of people are getting trainings right now, and this trend is also going to continue. So we're gonna see more and more trainings for of employees come up, and also all types of industries and departments. And then there is a switching point that we've also seen in person with some employees where they get the training and they understand the power of AI, and then employees get scared, right? So we've had this exposure already in the past where we demonstrated AI capabilities and employees were like, oh, this is actually my job, right? So we have to see how this development is going to go, because this is the next layer of people getting scared of adopting AI because they're scared of the AI replacing their job.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's again around like creating also perspectives, right? So you can obviously you see that a high amount of the tasks which your job entails is being like taken over by AI, but then you have to really double down on the topics which AI is not taking care of yet, and obviously doubling down on the fact in terms of like AI is now taking over these tasks. How can I utilize AI and orchestrate different AI agents maybe in the best way to do more of these tasks, and they basically become a layer on top of them as like an AI agent manager, which I think
Exactly.
is a term they're flying around quite often nowadays, to be kind of this logical orchestration layer on top of this intelligence evolution here. So I think these are really the points you could focus on as an individual being impacted by AI pushing or getting after your tasks in a way, right?
For sure. And I think this educational process will also have to take place, and most likely it will not take place internally. So there will be external, not only consultants, but external advisors that will have to implement this in the people's heads, right? At least that's my opinion, because internally it's always a difficult discussion to have that AI replaces or can replace employees or make them more efficient, but they still have to first of all understand.
Yeah, and obviously, you, everyone needs to also be aware of the alternative. I mean, the alternative is not adopting AI, not going with the technology evolution which is happening, and therefore being left behind. I mean, this is just a reality without wanting sound too harsh, but we also don't have to lie at ourselves here in a way, right? So you have to adapt, and this was always the case in the past, and this is now also the case. You have to adapt to new situations, and in this case, this new technology, and have to find your place within this new system and with these new capabilities, which are also given to you, right? Because everyone can utilize AI for their own jobs, obviously to more or less degree, depending heavily on the type of job you are working, also depending on where you are in your career. But nevertheless, right, it's a possibility given to anyone more or less, and therefore everyone has like an equal starting point to go and educate and use educate yourself with AI about AI and the use cases, and work with AI, right?
Okay, and so I completely agree on those points. And before we dive a bit deeper into what this means for the HR departments, a general question to you. What departments or industries do you think are most affected by the AI transformation versus what departments feel that they are less impacted?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like I think it's really common knowledge by now. Everyone was actually thinking the robots are coming first for the blue collar jobs and then for the white collar jobs, and this is really the other way around by now. So we see this high degree of automation and programming. I mean, even OpenAI and Anthropic, they are sharing that like 99% of their code is written by their intelligence, and the engineers are just like orchestrating these agents, picking up at this on this point which we just had, right? Then also looking at lawyers and like companies like Harvey and these kind of solutions, which are also really heavily going after these kind of tasks in the lawyer space. And also looking at sales, obviously marketing, these kind of things. I think this is really the things where AI is now already unfolding quite quickly because it's all digital. Everything which is physical is still obviously a bit behind. We see a lot of advancements in robotics as well, but it's not there yet. At least not to this degree. And then everything which has this kind of social interactions, like a doctor, like also a salesperson in the end, and these kind of things. There, obviously, AI is not really gaining much traction yet.
Yeah. So to come to a conclusion here, we come to the next diagram that was also evaluated during this report from McKinsey, which explicitly confirms your first assumption and says, hey, employees that are in manufacturing, can be viewed here in the bottom, have actually the most of the responses said, my job won't change at all. And this is so interesting because exactly like you said, everyone was always like, hey, robots are going to take over the world. Robots are going to take over the manufacturing processes and everything. And now we're coming into this AI era and actually nothing is changing, right? People are actually feeling more and more safe about their job now than ever before. And compared to that, if we look at finance, for example, only 14% say, hey, my job won't change at all. Whereas on the other side, it's like a lot more people are scared actually that or at least in the new roles, new skills will be needed. So if we look at the legend here, we have 4 different scales. Dark blue, my job won't change at all. The bit of a lighter blue is my job will change slightly in some tasks, but I will need some new tasks, new skills. And then we have my job will change considerably, so I will need a lot of different skills. And then my job will no longer exist.
Wow.
And that's crazy. So if we look at communications and external affairs, which I think is a bit random, honestly, where people think, hey, my job will no longer exist. So the study can also be biased, right? It can also mean that people didn't really know what impact AI can have until now.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think this is a very interesting data point. And this now brings us to the transfer to HR, which is exactly why we're here and what our focus is. Where let's look once at HR here in this scenario, where we're in the middle, right? 25%, 26% think that the job won't change at all. 50% actually acknowledge that they have to adopt their tasks and they have to learn new things, but actually change a lot, they don't think so. And I disagree with this result. What do you think about this human resource result from this statistic?
I mean, being so close to the industry and also being so close at like how AI is used in the industry across the value chain, from recruiting up to upskilling to performance reviews to contract management and all of these kind of things. I also wouldn't agree here because we have a lot of like, especially high volume tasks, which are kind of somewhat like low level complexity wise, and I think therefore AI is a great leverage. Looking at CVs, for example, of like discovering internal talent, conducting performance reviews, or at least getting the data in to conduct these reviews. These kind of things are like great use cases or examples how AI can be really leveraged in a way where it adds value to the individual employee, but also to the company. So yeah, I agree with you that I don't agree with the judgment or like the perception of the people, and I think this is also an interesting chart to look at in general because obviously this is now the perception of the people working in these industries, right? And on the
Exactly.
other hand, we have the AI capabilities, which are developing faster and faster from a technology perspective. And I think things are starting to merge in a way, but are not there yet. Specifically speaking about the HR example. I mean, obviously in engineering and in IT, we see already that people are more aware of the fact that AI is really impacting their jobs in one or the other way, because they are natively anyway much closer to this topic. And therefore it will be really interesting to see how this perception will change over time as the general knowledge around AI and its capabilities is increasing in overall population. And yeah, maybe like
For
closing it
sure.
off with this.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. So, as you said, in the HR chain, there are so many tasks that can be automated with AI, also from offer stages to contracts to everything, right? And I think once that is mapped completely and people actually understand what parts can be automated or made more efficient, plus like obviously human interactions we cannot replace, right? But this will be a big topic. Do we have a couple more minutes for one final closure?
Sure.
Okay, so one topic now, we went a bit deeper into HR, and I think to close this whole learning and development and implementation of the agentic layer in the HR department, to close this off, I have one final chart which goes into details of how exposed HR departments are worldwide in terms of AI. And I think this is a nice closure because it actually will show us how far developed or not we are in relevant countries. So once again, a split between different countries, going from the dark blue on the left-hand side to no awareness of agentic AI in HR departments, the blue in the middle being initial exploration and pilot usage, and on the right-hand side, operational adoption. Interesting. What is your first perception of this chart?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you look at the chart and take a look at the very bottom of it, you see that for the like people asked or interviewed in China in this regards, no one was telling they are not aware of like AI and agentic AI use in their HR department, which is obviously quite a heavy contrast compared to these, especially European countries on top here with France and Belgium and Germany. So. Yeah, and really interesting and not so motivating data point for the European countries here, right?
Yeah, it's very sad that the Middle East is not in here. I think in the Middle East we would probably not be as bad as like Germany and Belgium and France. We do see a lot of exposure right now already happening, but it's in early stages, right? Right. And it does really depend on who you ask also in this case, right? These were HR professionals, but we don't know their exact roles, right? We see, at least from our perception, that a lot more leadership and management people are handling these topics at the moment, and they will trickle down from the top once we get there. But I hope for everyone that we're gonna get in the next in the next analysis of this report, we'll see the European countries a bit farther down the line, closer to China.
Yeah.
So otherwise, we were definitely already behind. But I hope to see this chart improve, definitely.
100%. And I think this is like maybe to also then close our like podcast for today. This is a good maybe indicator for us that we should take the time once and really like draw out the whole HR value chain and all of its like sub functions, I would say, and really outline once what are the actual AI use cases which are currently in place and what are potential agentic AI use cases which could become reality in the future. And I think this could be a really, really cool topic to look at in a future episode. So maybe this is a cool thing to keep in mind for us.
Yep, I appreciate it a lot, and we'll do that. So thanks, Tim. Was a great deep dive. I hope I didn't overwhelm you with charts today, but I thought it was super interesting to show them without you being exposed to them before, to see your raw reaction. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next session.
Yeah, really enjoyed this like really data-based discussion. That's always a good one to have.
Thank you so much, and see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.